Thank you for listening to Pow Block Podcast, the flagship Nintendo podcast of Boss Rush Network. Do you need even more gaming and entertainment in your life? Head over to bossrush.net where you can find news, reviews, creators, podcasts, and more focused around the content you enjoy.
Hello everybody, welcome to Nintendo Pow Block here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host and latte excited Eddie V. Joining me is the gallivanting Gallitrad himself, Mr. Jacob Taylor.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Bossman himself, the one, the only Corey Derrick.
That's me.
And the devastating Dungeoneer, Mr. David Laxby.
Hey everybody.
Hello everybody, this is episode 256. How you guys doing?
I'm great. Ed, I really missed phone calling you today for our lunch meeting because I didn't have lunch because I found the perfect Luigi mustache filter. The thing is, here's the thing. I call Ed a lot on lunch to have little mini meetings about things, but I don't really get lunch anymore because, well, it's a thing.
Word.
But when I do, we Facebook message call each other, and they have little filters in the messenger thing, and I always try to put little funny filters on while I'm talking. One time, when you flip through the mustaches, there's one that's not so appealing for, let's just say, anyone that is not a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white person from the 40s.
Okay.
So
Yes. And the thing about it, everybody, is like I wait for Corey's call. But I do apologize, Corey, for last week. I was walking, and my phone didn't go off.
Yeah.
Do the meeting. I'm like, what is going on?
It's fine, Ed. I get it.
I had to go snag my headphone set for my Xbox Series X. Getting ready, hopefully, for Eddie and Fire Team.
Yes.
And there's a ton of Xbox games. Oh, good googly moogly. It's almost about to be $800 this month.
Or you could just play $15. Oh. You could just pay $15 and play it all on Game Pass, Ed.
No, I
except for Aliens.
I could go ahead and support the developer. But everybody, we're going to get into the show.
You didn't ask how anybody else was doing. I was the only one that answered.
I'm about to get into how was everybody's weekend. Jacob, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. I streamed, did some basic work around the house, played a lot of Pokemon Unite. It was pretty good. I want to apologize if I keep looking around because there's a huge thunderstorm just rolled in, so it keeps going off in the background for me, and I'm like wondering if I'm gonna lose power here in a moment. So hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
All right, David, how was your weekend?
Oh, I had a great weekend and fell in love with the new Nintendo franchise, which I'll talk about a little later. So it was a great weekend.
Oh, and congrats to you getting your 80 gems in Skyward Sword.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep, absolutely. Trying 100% Skyward Sword, so.
Yeah, it's funny. So you posted that, and then another friend of mine on Twitter posted the same thing with the same picture. I was like, that is amazing. Okay, Corey, how was your weekend?
It was fine. I thought I already answered. Did I not answer? I thought you asked me how I was doing. I said fine.
No, you said, Ed, I apologize for not.
My weekend was fine. My wife's mom's birthday was this weekend, so we celebrated that. And then we went to the zoo, which was exciting. They just added the Asia exhibit, so we got to see tigers and red pandas and some monkeys, so it was cool. My daughter thought it was fun, except when the animals get close to the glass, she gets scared, which is kind of funny. And then what did we do Sunday? Oh, Sunday my parents came over, so it was an eventful weekend. So,
for me, of course, did some work. Like I said, I actually got to do a lot of gaming. Been playing a lot of Series X, getting some stuff done with that. And I was telling Jacob, My playing power is going to be big because I've been going through a lot of Switch games that I have brought but have not started yet. So they were still in the plastic, and I was just like, "Oh, these games I need to start now." I still got stuff from I think like April that I brought that I need to start. I love games, everybody. I have a problem and stuff. But that's pretty much been my weekend, and yeah, we're gonna get into our favorite part of the show, Snacktendo. David, what have you been snacking on?
Well, I found so I like to eat a lot of popcorn, like flavored popcorn, things like that. So this brand I really like, Pop Kettle Corn, and they have a new flavor, the sweet vanilla. Well, he's new to me. It's
wait, hold on. What?
Yeah, and what's amazing is I diced up some strawberries, and if you pair the strawberries with the popcorn, it tastes like strawberry shortcake, and it's so good. So this has been my new favorite snack this week.
You said sweet vanilla?
Sweet vanilla. It's basically like kettle corn.
We sell this Skinny Pop Kettle at my job, but we haven't got that flavor yet.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
I will put that on my Snacktendo list again, and I'll get some strawberries down the street from the grocery store.
Just like pop together. Oh,
that's why I had to stop you when I seen the brand and you talking about like, wait, what is this? Because I love Skinny Pop. I really do. It's so good.
It's good.
Jacob, what have you been snacking on?
So my Snacktendo this week is I've been chowing down on a bunch of Fig Newtons again periodically. I talked about that last week. However, this week at the grocery store, I saw and had to pick up a new Oreo flavor that I've never tried before. It's a salted caramel brownie Oreo.
Wow. Yeah,
it's so good. It's a little too sweet for me, but the salt bites through that sweetness, which is nice. But it's hard to eat just 3 of those like at a time because they're really, really delicious. And like normally you've got the Oreo and you twist it open, it's like just the one type of cream, but this is like half and half chocolate, half caramel cream because it's a brownie. You know, it absolutely tastes like a salted caramel brownie. It's so good.
Yeah, we haven't got that one yet, but I think we're gonna be getting this soon. Our Oreo's been flying off the shelf like crazy. We can't keep no cookies, which I'll talk about later on this next though. But is that all, Jacob?
That is it for me, Ed.
All right, Corey, what have you been snacking on?
Well, for my mother-in-law's birthday, we had ice cream cake, and it was delightful. It's just some chocolate and some vanilla with some like frozen hot fudge on top. It was very delightful. I don't really know how else to describe it. It was just, I had to have 2 pieces. It was so good.
I have a question. How do you have frozen hot fudge?
Oh, trust me, as a connoisseur of hot fudge, it is possible. Let me tell you. Have you ever had a hot fudge milkshake?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Dude.
Yeah.
I will take that over ice cream any day. It's so good.
Really?
Yes. I'm not a big ice cream guy, Ed. Just like
hot fudge though.
Hot
Or
fudge.
just fudge in general.
No, just hot fudge.
Oh, okay.
Hot fudge is like, you put hot fudge on anything, I'll probably eat it. Except for peanut butter.
I just seen David just ski, just go in the chair.
True. Peanut butter. Yeah.
Oh,
It's fine. It's fine.
Was that all? What kind of ice cream cake was it?
I just told you it was chocolate and vanilla.
Dunkin' Donuts? Was it from the store?
It was from Cold Stone.
Ah, okay.
So
nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Cold Stone is good. I do love the ice cream. Anything else, or that was just it?
No, that's it for now. Nothing else interesting.
Okay, so for me, of course, you have my pull and peel twisters that keep selling out at my store. I just realized that they got the Chip Ahoy Chewy cookies now with Hershey's inside. And I just seen them. I'm like, oh, I need to buy these when I get off work. I forgot to buy them, everybody. So next week I will give you an update about that. Went to a particular a particular chicken fast food spot, and I got some popcorn chicken. Got my biscuit, and was so happy that I was able to have this food. And while I was ordering, the lady tells me, "I'm sorry, sir, but we are all out of sides. So most of the only side that we have is sweet corn." And I said, "Okay, that'll be fine." Now, this particular chicken spot, to me, has the best mac and cheese, has some of the best mashed potatoes and gravy, has some of the best green beans. To find out, and their fries are popping off too. To find out that they have ran out of size is a first of this one. Now, everybody should know that the other franchise that is named after a sailor, I don't really mess with their chicken, but their sides are good. The other place, though, yeah, I was really shocked because I wanted some mac and cheese and had to deal with some. Had to deal with the sweet corn, which was fine, and I was hungry. But yeah, and then Taco Bell pretty much getting their nacho fries, which was like really good.
Speaking of fast food, Ed, did you know that Burger King has a $1 bacon cheeseburger?
You told me that, and I need to go there and get it probably tomorrow.
Man, this is like the worst.
A little slider?
No, it's like a full-sized burger.
That can't be real meat.
No, I mean it's Burger King. Of course it's not. But this is a bad time to find that out, though. By the way, it's just like because I'm
also
besides that ice cream cake, I've been really, really trying. Okay, guys, I've been trying. It's going good, except I just fell off the wagon. It's fine.
I had the Philly cheesesteak from Domino's and some pasta for Domino's for lunch. And
don't you live in Chicago? Why are you eating Domino's?
I don't live in Chicago.
I don't care. You're close. You should be eating deep dish pizza every day. You should be swimming in that sauce and cheese.
I can't eat. Does Domino's even?
You should be hanging out. You should be doing hot tub streams in a deep dish pizza. Okay? You should not be eating Domino's.
Well, if these places would deliver deep dish pizza, then I want to eat Domino's.
I'm disappointed in you, Ed.
Don't give me no sass this on this episode. Everybody, he's going to give me sass anyway. But that's pretty much has been my Snacktendo. I still am walking, getting my workout on. Still drinking my water, trying to keep healthy, trying to keep a balanced life. But I was telling Lamont, shout out to Lamont, who is one of our writers at Boss Rush, that I want some fried rice and lo mein again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh goodness. Whew. I meant to go get some today, but like literally just been in the bed, sleep, just covering my body. But I'm like, tomorrow before I go to work, I'm going to get some lo mein, some fried rice, and then eat that, and then on my way get that Burger King sandwich. But that. Oh, go ahead.
And I'd like to DCD, our very own Dan, pointed out in the chat that Lou Malnati delivers. So apparently, I guess they serve a deep dish pizza and they deliver. So I don't think you have an excuse anymore.
So
Ed, there's no excuse anymore, Ed. No, there's Uber Eats, there's Grubhub, there's the weird guy on the corner that probably has a car somewhere. It's probably a big white van with no windows. It's fine. Just get him to deliver you some pizza.
So I have tried to get them to deliver to my job, and they will not do it. They will not do it because I'm not in their zip code.
That's
well.
That seems.
It's very suspect. There is a place called Silo Down by my job, so I might try there and get deep dish pizza and see if I could get it sent up the street, or I'll just kick somebody out the store and tell them go get my food and come back, and everything. But everybody, that it has been Snacktendo. Oh, last thing, I'm sorry, I have a loaded bunny, chocolate and marshmallow ice cream cone. Ooh, it's so delicious. It's so good, so good. But we're going to get into our next segment. Is our Game Fact events. And everybody, I have the Game Fact events for this episode. And I kind of found this very interesting because I never knew why this happened. So if anyone remembers Killer Instinct, it was a fighting game in the arcade that Rare, Nintendo, and Midway produced and brought together. But I always wondered, why did Nintendo never publish it and Midway did for the arcade version? And I kind of found out that Nintendo had got out of the arcade business in 1992. Well, in early 1994, Nintendo signed a licensing agreement with WMS Industries, Midway's parent company, which enabled Midway to develop and market games using the early arcade-based version of the Ultra 64 platform, later to become a home console and then be renamed to Nintendo 64, and formed a joint venture company called Williams/Nintendo to market Nintendo-exclusive home conversions of these games. Killer Instinct was announced as the first of these games. The announcement came at a time when Nintendo was still known for its stance against violent video games. To avert speculation that Killer Instinct would not be as violent as the title suggests, Nintendo's director of marketing, George Harrison, stated that Williams would not have entered into this deal if they thought their hands would be tied. We won't restrict them in any way. He added that Nintendo believed that an industry standard rating system, which was expected to be in place by the time the home version was released, would make their stance against violent games no longer necessary. So, yeah, I was just like, oh, wow. And I tried to look up more games for it, but I couldn't find any. So I think they made this joint business deal just to put that game out for arcades, because Nintendo ended up publishing the game for the Super Nintendo. Now, which is also kind of exciting to see this, is that Nintendo did not so much deals like that, but Namco has did their Mario Kart games. Capcom has did Luigi's Mansion as an arcade game, and I think it's Namco who also did their F-Zero games. So it's kind of not realizing that Nintendo kind of had publishing deals even in the arcade scene, along with home console. Didn't even realize that. Didn't even put 2 to 2 together. Any thoughts from you guys about that?
I mean, I think it's kind of weird, right? Like, I mean, we kind of think of Killer Instinct especially as like Rare's fighting game, right? And I don't know, and then, you know, when Microsoft kind of revamped it for the Xbox One, or we think of the gold cartridge on the N64, right? Like, you never really think of it as like a, I don't know, maybe it's just because I wasn't in arcades enough. I just never really think of Nintendo in the arcades, you know? I just don't. Yes. I mean, the only real game I kind of think of Nintendo in the arcade is Donkey Kong, right? That's kind of like the only one that ever comes to mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dreamcast in a sense, how the Naomi board, you know, when people would play Crazy Taxi, you were kind of playing the arcade version on the Dreamcast, and everything. And it was just something I've never like really paid attention to realize that Nintendo had publishing deals outside, even in arcades, like they do now for their consoles. Any thoughts, David or Jacob?
I love that you wore your Nintendo 64 shirt for your Game Pack Advance today.
Oh, thank you.
I'd just be interested to know what else Nintendo published without like really making it known that they published in arcade and just in general. Like I've always enjoyed seeing what they've brought, what they had a hand in bringing to their consoles and what they didn't.
Yeah, because I think I think Killer Instinct and Killer Instinct 2 are the only games that they have, did from arcade to home console. Anything else that they did has never been on another console. So, like, if you want that Mario Kart arcade experience, you only can play that, like, Dave and Buster's or something like that. So, very interesting. Well, everybody, we're going to get into Family News. David, take it away.
All right, thanks, Ed. So our first story, new Pokemon Snap is getting more areas and Pokemon in free update. So this is from Ryan Craddock at NintendoLife.com. Quote, the Pokemon Company has announced that new Pokemon Snap will soon be treated to a free update, bringing new content along for the ride. Launching on Tuesday, August 3rd, the new update will add 3 new areas in total and 20 new Pokemon, including the likes of Snorlax, Psyduck, Shroomish, and Gyarados, and more. The new areas consist of a new location at the Floria Island Nature Park, Mighty Wide River, with both day and night times available, and Barren Badlands, again with both day and night variants. So, this is a great time to be a Pokemon fan or to get into this franchise. Does continued support of these kinds of titles suggest good things to come for fans? Is it surprising that the update is coming so soon after the launch? So, Jacob, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I'm really excited about this update. I think that it's been a little stagnant in the Pokemon Snap. I don't think it took off quite like everyone had thought it would. But this is cool. I'm racking my brain to remember if they came out ahead of time and said that there would be updates for their game, and I do not remember. I would need to do some research on that. But for this to actually come out as soon as it is, I think that's neat. I think it's cool that they are supporting this, and I think that they've shown, along with some other games, that they are willing to support their games past their initial launch date. But I've kind of talked about it before on Twitter, but the big thing for me is the new mechanics, because I've talked about this on past episodes, but the original Pokemon Snap game, the mechanics are what really drew me into it. It was more like a puzzle game, and this one's more like just a photography on rails game. There's not really any puzzle mechanics to it. So I hope that they're going to start introducing some new challenges to the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction. Corey, I know that you're not a Pokemon guy, but does Nintendo seem to allow Pokemon to be supported better than some of their other games? Mario Golf came out relatively at the same time. When are we going to get updates for that? Like, what do you make of this?
I think Pokemon is kind of its own beast, right? Like, I think the Pokemon Company has a lot of say over what happens, obviously, with that IP, right? Because, I know we're going to talk about it later, especially because I know Jacob's been playing it, but Pokemon Unite is coming to phones and PC, which is like, well, that's, if Nintendo has no control over that, obviously, because they would probably want to keep it on Switch, right? But I think it's cool. Pokemon's, like, I'm not a huge Pokemon guy. My love for Pokemon stops pretty much at that red and blue and yellow phase, although Legends looks great. But I did play a lot of Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64, and I've been figuring out if I should get this one or not. If they're going to keep updating it like this, it's more likely that game's going to drive me to go play it or buy it, especially with my daughter getting older enough to know what's going on in game. Like, I found a 2DS. One of my mom's friends was getting rid of it, and it's like one of the door wedge ones, and I'm like, well, this is going to be perfect for her. I don't have any games for it or anything, but like, it's probably going to be perfect for her because she's 3, right? Like, I don't want her touching mine. I don't want her snapping the hinge or whatever. And she already gave my Switch a nice toss across the room one time. So, but I think something like Pokemon is something that she could really get into, and Pokemon Snap would be something that me and her could play because it's on rails. It's relatively easy, right? It's and if they're going to keep updating it like this, it's like, oh, let's see what they added. We can go in and take more pictures or see what they added, see new levels and see new biomes, whatever. I think it's cool. I'm shocked that they added stuff to it. And if they're going to keep doing it, I'm all for it.
Yeah, my daughter was pretty excited for it as well, and really loves the game. Ed, is this the best time, in the history of Pokemon to be a fan? Have there been better eras, or are we right now at the pinnacle of Pokemon fandom?
I think we are. I think we're at the pinnacle of Pokemon fandom. With us watching the movies, us hearing Katy Perry and Post Malone doing songs and stuff like that. I think Pokemon is still big, and plus everybody still watches the anime and everything. So getting like this new content to this game, it's just going to bring more people, and even might gain more sales to it. If it's the right thing to grab more people's attention, to be like, hey, we have this Pokemon game that, it did good, but you should come on in and try it for yourself. And with this new content, maybe you might appreciate it more. I think we got a good pinnacle of Pokemon going on at this time. So it could just only grow stronger. And there's already people ready to pre-order like all the next Pokemon games and stuff. And I was telling Jacob early about Pokemon Unite is that people love it and then people hate it because of how competitive it is. They they love the game, but they hate losing with it. And that's kind of how Pokemon is. You love the games, but sometimes, depending on if you're not trained enough with your characters and stuff, you can end up hating the game because you keep losing and stuff like that.
Jacob, you have a final thought on that?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Ed said about how this is the pinnacle of being a Pokemon fan. And I think what's really unique about the Pokemon franchise is that there hasn't really ever been a bad time to be a Pokemon fan. Maybe it didn't quite speak to you as the current player, as the current generation, but there's always been something for everyone with Pokemon, and there's always been ways to introduce new people to Pokemon. So I think that Pokemon in general has just a unique life cycle experience in that it never really has been a bad time to jump into a Pokemon game.
I mean, my daughter and I, we got reserved the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Diamond, Brilliant Pearl. Did I mix those two up? Anyway, the re-release of Diamond and Pearl.
Who knows?
We've got
who could say
the 2-pack coming, and I'm excited because I've never played that generation really at all, and it'll be fun to experience that together. So I think your point about these opportunities is a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our next story is a little bit of a unique one. Nintendo's selling miniature versions of its iconic Nintendo Store statues. Credit again to Ryan Craddock over at Nintendo Life. If you've been lucky enough to visit Nintendo's world-famous store in Tokyo, or even if you've watched hundreds of videos of other people visiting it on YouTube instead, you'll no doubt have seen the 4 statues that proudly adorn the shop floor. Mario, Link, Isabelle, and an Inkling can all be seen on large podiums in the center of the store. The 4 characters serve as the store's mascots, often being used in its logos and even being plastered all across the store's windows. Now Nintendo is giving you the chance to take these statues home, kind of. From this weekend, the store attendees will be able to pick up miniature versions of the 4 statues, either separately or in a pack. They're available for 71.50 yen, or approximately $65 individually, or 28,600 yen for all 4 in a special box, which is roughly $260. So for consideration, is this exciting news or an absurd waste of money? Can you see these becoming popular souvenirs at Super Nintendo World as the company continues to follow the Disney path in its marketing? Corey, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of this story?
I mean, I thought they were cool until you said how much they were, and I'm just like, no. I would rather have the amiibo that I can't find, let alone these things that you're probably not going to be able to find. You know what I mean? It's just like, they're cool looking, though. I do have to say that they are really nicely sculpted. They're very, they do look collectors-esque, but, are they worth that much money? Ooh, boy, I mean, I have some Pokemon cards I want to get rid of if we want to, I could trade you for that, but, so... I don't know. They're cool looking. I don't know. They'll probably be really rare because nobody wants to pay that. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be worth like quadruple the price you know, in like 5 years or whatever. So they're cool, but I don't know if they're worth that amount of money. Jeez.
Jacob, what do you think of this story? Is Nintendo kind of following the Disney path in terms of merchandise and sort of getting different opportunities for fans to part with their money?
Yeah, absolutely. Disney, and especially if you go to like Disney World or Disneyland, everything is so expensive there. So the price, while the price definitely shocks me, that doesn't like not follow suit with what Nintendo does. The interesting thing to me is that I don't know if I necessarily feel good. Number one, obviously that it's only available in Japan. That sucks as an American who loves Nintendo, or a European person who loves somebody in Europe who loves Nintendo. But number two, with like what's going on in the world, the fact that they're only available in stores, so you have to go, like that seems a little weird. I'm kind of questioning that decision a little bit.
They do have a lot of merch that's like that, though. I
know that, like,
I mean, it would be cool if there were more stores, but there's only like 3 stores in the entire world, right? There's one in Washington at Treehouse, right? That only employees can go to and their friends. There's one in New York, and there's one in Tokyo, right? Or Kyoto, somewhere
in Japan.
Yes, Japan.
Yeah.
So,
but it just seems so odd, but it also, like, this is exactly what Nintendo gets ripped for all the time, is that they make this thing that's super cool that everybody wants, that people weirdly enough people would be willing to pay this amount for, and then they're like, but we only made 5 of them and we've hidden them throughout the world. Good luck. Like, it just seems, it's so weird because they leave so much money on the table by doing stuff like this, but at the same time, maybe that's their plan. Maybe that's the reason they can charge this much for stuff like this, is because that it's only going to have X amount of them, and that's going to be a single-digit number. Like,
Jacob, I love that you said they hid them around the world. That is fantastic.
That's basically what it feels like.
Ed, I got to get you in on this. So obviously I want to know if you would ever pick up these, but also I'm just curious, does this kind of solidify, Mario, Link, Isabelle, and an Inkling as like the face of Nintendo? That we've got our like mini Mount Rushmore there of, Nintendo brands. What do you think of that?
Well, okay. So it is the Mount Rushmore of the modern ages compared to what it would have been back in the day. I like this. I think it's awesome. Yes, I would spend the money to get these because the thing about it is just like, this is coming from Nintendo, these statues and everything, and you don't really get that much merchandise from Nintendo, at least unless it's a T-shirt or a hoodie or it's some kind of snack or something. To have like something like that's worth a collectible that you don't want to depart with unless you got to go pay some bills. I could see this being like in my house or this being on my stand or wherever. I love it, and I think there's going to be someone in Japan who's going to buy it, because the thing about it is they're going to resell it, and it's going to be at a higher price. And there are people who know that because they have that collectible spirit in it, they're going to spend that money to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have the Link statue. I mean, that would be fantastic. I mean, I've always wanted to go visit it, and to have like a miniature version of it would be so amazing.
I love, if you've seen the pictures of these, I love that. So like Link is on, like, they're all on little pedestals, right? And Link is on like a little rock, kind of like you'd find in Breath of the Wild. Mario is on a block, like the regular blocks that you hit in Mario games. Isabelle and I think it's like a little Timmy and Tommy are on like a heart-shaped like path, and then the Splatoon Inkling is just like on an amiibo stand, basically. Like, it's just a regular circle platform. It's so weird. But,
oh my goodness.
But yeah, they're great. These things are really cool looking.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our third story. And Ed, I'll be starting with you on this one because I have a feeling you'll have some thoughts on this. So Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater confirmed digital only on Switch in the West, but going physical in Japan and Asia with English support. So this is from Brian over at NintendoEverything.com. So recent trailers for the new Switch version of Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water have suggested that the game will be digital only in the West. We followed up with Koei Tecmo and can confirm that this will indeed be the case. A physical version is not planned for North America or Europe. While that may come as a disappointment, there is some good news. Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater will have a physical release in Japan and Asia. It also looks like English will be supported, similar to Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, which was digital only in the West, but had physical versions in other regions. So I'll start with that, and then we'll get everybody in on this. So what's going on here? Why aren't Western audiences getting physical editions for this game? What is it going to take to start getting more of these types of games coming over to the West in both physical and digital? What do you think, Ed?
Okay, so because of the Wii U version also being digital only, this is not such a big thing because the game is kind of episodic and Fatal Frame is not such a big property. Now, I can understand if this was not Eternal Sunshine, Eternal Darkness, and they would be upset. But because of this game not doing so well in America, it's very a niche game. Now, for the like we spoke in the last story, for the collectors, people are probably going to import this game from Japan, and spend some extra money. I know Fatal Frame is kind of bigger in Japan than it is here. So with them getting that physical copy in Japan, unless you want it or something like that, I think there's ways for people to import it. And plus, Switch being region free, this would be a game to like kind of have. I don't know if they still do the black boxes or black carts that they used to, like they do it in Japan at a certain rating or anything. But I'm like, it's not such a big deal. I think with us not getting it here in the West, we understood from when they did it for the Wii U that we weren't getting that game too in physical form. So it's not such a big deal or anything. I think it's got to be a bigger game that we are not getting. Plus, this is coming from Koei Tecmo, so they make the decision, not so much Nintendo. Nintendo has invested into the Fatal Frame series, but they are not owners of the series.
Mm-hmm. Corey, we've talked a lot, though, that Nintendo fans like to buy physical. Is this a mistake not to release it physical?
Something tells me that there's gonna be some sort of a physical limited edition through either limited run or super rare or something like that to get a second boost in sales, right? Like, I feel like this game isn't big enough to like get enough sales on its own on first release. They need to have a long drawn out marketing type thing, and I feel like, first of all, it's coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as well. So like they're already putting it on other platforms to try to help the sales, right? But also, if you make some sort of really crazy limited edition version of this game that maybe comes out later to hit around, I would say Halloween, but I think it's already coming out that weekend, the 28th, I think. Like around Christmas or something like that, and make this really cool limited edition physical copy, like I think people would double dip, just because, like, I mean, I know how I am with physical copies. I double dip on stuff because, like, if I'm really enjoying a game, or like, to be honest, if I'm going on vacation or something, I don't want to carry those Switch cartridges around. They're so small. Right. So like, if I want a game physically, like, I'll buy it, but I usually have it digitally as well because I'm a moron, but that's fine.
No, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, though, and I always have this fear that it's not going to be, on the network or whatever anymore, and so I always like to have that physical copy, which I know people told me all the time, it's just a key, blah blah blah.
Well, I mean, you look at what Xbox is going through right now, right? With Forza Motorsport 7, they're about to pull Forza off of Game Pass and off the store. And people are like, well, that's why you buy physical. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Forza 7 was in development probably before Game Pass was even a fully fleshed out service. Mm-hmm. The licensing with the cars and the music and stuff does not last in perpetuity, which is why they're making Forza Motorsport their game as a service moving forward with, battle pass, their version of a battle pass and DLC, right? Like the Motorsport 8 or whatever they're going to call it is the Motorsport in perpetuity. So they're, of course it's going off. We saw that with Forza Horizon 2 and 3 a couple years ago, right? It's just anything that has to do with licensing and especially cars and stuff, because for some reason car licensing is really weird. Like they don't like to, a lot of companies don't even put their cars in games because they don't want to see their cars damaged, right? Like Toyota is a huge proponent of this. Like it's crazy, but like Toyota doesn't want their cars in games because they don't want people to wreck them. Like that's okay. Well, whatever.
Jacob, if memory serves me correctly, you're all digital, right? Do you have an opinion on, getting these games in the West and how important that is as somebody who prefers your digital games? What do you think?
I don't know if I necessarily have an opinion on it. I would be interested to know if this is a game by game situation or if they have just a baseline of, oh, well, we think this game will sell, 5 million units, so we're not shipping it physically. That's going to cost too much versus what we would make off of it, right? I also wonder if kind of like what Corey said, if there is this idea that they've got of, well, we'll see what interests are, and then we can maybe make an extra push. If a lot of people buy it digitally, we can say, hey, well, here's this cool collector's edition with like a camera or something,
I mean, it's what Final Fantasy is doing with their pixel games, right? It's like if there's enough interest, we'll. Did you see it's getting review bombed on Steam? By the way,
I don't care. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
like it can get taken off of all game libraries for all I care. We don't talk about that series anymore.
Final Fantasy is dead to me.
It's absolutely dead to me. But. I really want to know what the decision is, because it's going back to like why they do, and Ed mentioned this is a Koei Tecmo decision, not necessarily a Nintendo decision, but it goes back to why companies presumably leave money on the table with this sort of things, because there's so many. I am a devout follower of the digital realm, but there's so many people who want physical games and like refuse to buy digital games because it's like, I want that copy that I'll have forever. But so I just, it seems odd that they would make this decision. Again, they could do a limited release, but I just don't get it. I don't understand why. Like options are always good for the consumer, and so I don't understand why they're just locking it, especially if they've got the game that can play in English anyways. Like it'd be one thing if they're like, well, we don't want to translate, we don't want to have to do that, but the game already plays in English digitally. It's already available. You can play it in English on an English Switch. Like it's not region locked, so why not just ship those copies
over
to America?
Here. Yeah.
Like,
yep.
There's also like I switched to all digital because like I remember I was listening to some podcast about game like disc and cartridge degradation, and like how early PlayStation 1 games probably are starting not to work because of this
rot.
Yeah, it's just
meanwhile Nintendo's entertainment system's going strong here, so just gotta throw that out there.
I mean, that's the thing of cartridges versus discs, right? It's like cartridges, like the save battery in them might fail, but the game itself probably is okay for a while because it's based on a board instead of a disc, and
it's also really easy to replace that save battery so that you can basically breathe new life into your copy.
Yeah, I did it about 5 years ago on my NES. I replaced the pins in the NES, and I replaced some of the batteries in the games that I have, and it's like brand new.
What's more interesting to me, I wasn't going to get into it, but I want to now. I'm sorry, David.
It's all right.
That Corey brought up that like they're removing Forza 7 from Game Pass and the digital marketplace, and people are like, oh, you should have bought physical. Yeah, but the Xbox is an online system. If they patch the Xbox to say if you have Forza 7, you can't play it anymore, like they can do that. That's part of that terms and conditions that you agree to when you boot up your systems nowadays for the first time. That's part of that.
Well, they can say it's not that you can't play it. It's just that you can't purchase it. If you've already purchased it, you can play it. No, right?
But
like that's.
I'm saying that though, like in the future, they could go as far as saying you can't even play it anymore. Like Destiny, right? Destiny's an online game. As soon as that server goes down, it doesn't matter if you have the disc or not. You're not going to be able to play it.
Don't do
I'm
this.
sorry.
Well,
It's true.
All right, Ed, you're going to be our last word on this, and then we got to go to our next story. So go for it, Ed.
So, I think because of Japan having a bigger fan base than America, I think that might also be a factor in. I agree with everybody saying that, we would love a physical version. We probably would see limited run, get it. And if limited run does it, trust me, what would be more, I want to see if limited run does a run of this game, I want to see the Xbox version. I don't want to see the PlayStation and Nintendo version. Reason being is because limited run hasn't been really supporting Xbox, and I think this game would be more of a collector's item if it came to Xbox.
It's because Xbox has weird rules around physical copies. Like it I'm not going to get into it, but you can look it up.
All right, guys.
The Switch version.
Wrap it up.
The Switch version will probably sell out in an hour if it comes physical.
Well,
so
that's a pretty good argument for them to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be a collector's edition too. So I think we'll get like posters and the soundtrack and more for that.
All right, our next story is also from Brian at NintendoEverything.com. So Nintendo shares statement on concerns over burn-in with the Switch OLED screen. So OLED allows for, quote, vivid colors and crisp contrasts, according to Nintendo, but it also comes with a slight risk. Burn-in can happen with OLED screens, which CNET describes as a portion of an image that persists as a ghostly background no matter what else appears on the screen. Fortunately, burn-in is a relatively uncommon issue. Nintendo itself has also commented on potential concerns when it comes to burn-in with the new Switch OLED model. The company had this to say in a statement. We've designed the OLED screen to aim for longevity as much as possible, but OLED displays can experience image retention if subject to static visuals over a long period of time. However, users can take preventative measures to preserve the screen by utilizing features included in the Nintendo Switch systems by default, such as the auto brightness function to prevent the screen from getting too bright, and the auto sleep function to go into auto sleep mode after short periods of time. So for consideration on this story, is this overblown? Or are we headed for a Joy-Con Drift 2.0 situation? Any concerns as we head towards the OLED release date? Jacob, I want to start with you.
This is so overblown. So for those of you who don't know, in order to achieve burn-in, like of course there's extreme, what's the word? Like instances where it's like you just
like
got
outliers.
super unlucky. Yeah, you just got super unlucky if this happens to you outside of these parameters. But like typically burn-in happens after something like 1,000 hours of the exact same static image, not changing at all for that full 1,000 hours. So if you've done that to yourself, that's your fault. Like don't leave the TV on at night. Don't on like the blue screen of death, whatever it is for the TV that you get if you leave it on for too long. The one thing that Nintendo could do to make sure that this doesn't become a problem, and they've already done it by having the Switch have like that auto off feature and things like that, but like having a non-static background on like the home screen of the Switch, right? And a lot of games do this too. If you're in a game menu before you hit the start button, you'll see that there's like some little things moving around because that makes it non-static. So it reduces the chance of burn-in. But it takes an insane amount of hours to achieve burn-in on a static image. And again, there are exceptions. There are some cases where you just got unlucky and your system already had a malfunction. But that's why manufacturer warranties exist. That's why these things happen. Like you can't protect against everything. But for this to even be like better watch out, like somebody's blowing this out of the water.
So Ed and Corey, both of you have a chance to get a word in on this, but Nintendo historically has a reputation for using outdated technology, for having some issues that are persistent, like Joy-Con Drift. What do you make of the fact that Nintendo had to come out and actually make a statement on this, in spite of what Jacob pointed out, which is that it's not that easy to get burn it? So either of you guys,
it's more than they said about Joy-Con Drift. No, I think that like ever since like HD TVs were a thing, right, with plasma and stuff, burn-in has been kind of a concern with higher end TVs because they do get hot, and OLED. When OLEDs first came out, that was an issue, right? It's always an issue with like first generation type things, but I feel like, especially because their screens are from Samsung, I feel like Samsung has had that kink worked out for so long that it's like, well, if you leave your Switch on for 1,000 hours and plugged in on the same screen, that's your fault, right? Like, I mean, I'm excited to see the OLED stuff. Like, yeah, it's screen burn-in is always going to be some sort of concern, but I think if you get to that point, Nintendo's either going to put out a new Switch that somebody's going to trade in this one and get, or they're going to be. I don't think it's a real concern. I'm going to be honest. There's going to be like that one outlier where the fan doesn't work correctly and it overheats, and then you get burn-in, right? Like Jacob said. But overall, I really don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. I think secretly they hear the Joy-Con drift argument and they don't want to have another thing that people point to, and they're like, well, okay, well, let's stick to this. Let's play this one issue off and make sure we have no more issues. Right. I mean, that's just how I feel about it.
Ed, anything to add before we move on?
I think they just want to reassure people that it's that if it does happen, it's a low risk of it ever happening, because don't forget, like, how are you going to get something off of this if you're playing it in handheld mode for a long time? Like, the battery may run out by the time this even happens, or if you're playing it on the dock, you won't probably, for some people who probably going to be playing it, a lot of it like on the go or maybe on the dock, it's going to be pretty hard to notice because of the battery life and everything. Like, are you really going to be playing this game on the OLED for this long amount of period of time for that to happen? Like, where are you traveling? Where are you playing it at to charge it up for it to happen? Like,
right.
It's just such a low risk. They just want to just reassure everybody that there's a way, if this does happen, there's a way for you guys to prevent it, to get your to inform you. So I think, yeah, like Jacob said, this is an overblown story, just trying to get headlines and everything.
All right, well, we're going to head into our last story. This is from Thomas Whitehead over at NintendoLife.com. Controversy surfaces around Nintendo's absence at the opening ceremony of the Olympics. So we covered this previously, speculated a little bit here on Pow Block about what could be behind this, and we got some more information this week. So I'll read a little bit from
Conversation Part 2.
Yes, indeed. So, quote, an extensive report on Bunchen.jp addresses the opening ceremony of the games, and it's an investigative piece that states it's seen 11 varied scripts from throughout the creative process and multiple project leads. It seems that there were 3 key segments of varying importance that were planned with Nintendo at different points. One plan that seemingly got cut around October of 2020 was for the return of the green Mario pipe seen in the Rio Games handover, with Lady Gaga initially pitched to emerge in a Mario hat. The bigger aspects of Nintendo's involvement was for an impressive early sequence that would have been inspired by the 8-bit world of video games. That translation is via VJC. Shigeru Miyamoto was heavily involved in the creative process, attending weekly meetings in Tokyo for some time. It is suggested that Nintendo had mixed feelings when the concept was eventually cut. Coming back to the music segment from the ceremony, it seems the decision for Nintendo on Pokemon music to not feature was made relatively late. A draft of the script dated June 16th of this year stated that tracks for Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and Pokemon were all planned, none of which actually appeared in the final show. Nintendo was approached and declined to comment. Now, there's further speculation from Joe Screbbles of IGN, who said, quote, as for why Nintendo pulled out of the event, Shakan Bunshan says that Mikiko Mizuno, most famous for being the choreographer for the likes of Baby Metal, provides the show's original plans. During this time, Shigeru Miyamoto reportedly traveled to Tokyo almost every week. However, Hiroshi Sasaki, who subsequently resigned after making controversial comments about a Japanese comedian and model, was eventually given the creative director job and seemingly changed many of the plans, reportedly leading Nintendo to cut its part in the event shortly before it took place. So, a lot of context there. Some things to think about. Is there more here than what we're even hearing now? With this controversy around the Olympics, with COVID and everything else, and Sasaki's role in planning the ceremony, would participating have actually been bad for Nintendo's family-friendly brand? Is there more story to dig up here? Ed, we'll start with you. What's your reaction to all this?
The Lady Gaga thing was like very weird.
Yeah, I would love to see Lady Gaga in a Mario hat.
Right, like when would she come out and sing? Like, I don't know.
The song that's in
Pauline.
Yeah, that one. The Mario Odyssey song.
Mario Odyssey song.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. I could totally see her doing that.
That would be amazing.
Why not?
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting thing.
No, it'd be awesome. Not interesting. It would be awesome.
No, because I'm just like, is she singing and like, there's some Olympians doing flips and stuff, or like would there be dances? I don't know. It'd be interesting because I'm just like, where did you go from there with it? Wow, yeah,
So it turned out there was some tension, right? We speculated that there was some tension. No. You don't think so, Jacob?
No. I think this is just a case of given how many times the creative directive chair changed hands. I think this is just a case of people changing their minds and like wanting to go and it was getting tossed out. It had 11 different rewrites. Like there's probably a ton of stuff that got cut and just people aren't talking about it as much. I do think that. I think that it's a shame that it got cut, but like I don't think there's any controversy behind it. I think Nintendo's not wanting to comment on it because like what are they gonna say? Like, oh yeah, we're bummed we weren't in the Olympics. Oh boo-hoo. Like, yeah, of course they are, but that doesn't mean that they don't.
No, we're gonna go spend our money and make billions of dollars on Zelda and Splatoon 3 next year.
Yeah, right. Like, we'll never bounce back from this. No one will like us anymore because we weren't in the Olympics. Like, they don't care.
I gotta disagree. I think they felt disrespected. I think Nintendo, you're having a ceremony that's supposed to be about the history of gaming as part, introducing in Japan, and the fact that they got bumped so many times that somebody that they didn't really want representing or having creative control got appointed. I think they pulled out because they didn't feel respected. That's my 2 cents. Corey, you, and then Jacob as well.
I mean, I just think Nintendo just does whatever they want, and if they don't feel like doing it, they're just not going to do it. I don't, like, maybe they, yeah. Miyamoto's like, I'm going to go make Pikmin 4 and never release it, because I have a corner desk now. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I just think Nintendo does whatever Nintendo wants to do, and if they don't want to be a part of the Olympics because they're not, like, the main feature or whatever, then that's their prerogative, right? Nintendo holds themselves to a higher standard than most, if not all, other video game companies. If they feel like they aren't front and center the entire time, then I feel like they're not going to do it, right? Like, I feel like they felt that way with E3, so they started Nintendo Direct. I feel like they started that way, with the theme park stuff. When the rumor was they were going to go with Disney, and Disney wanted full creative control, and they didn't have any, so they went with Universal, which is the same as the Wizarding World, right? Like, they were talking to Disney about building a Harry Potter park, and Disney wanted full creative control, and then they said no. So I just feel like Nintendo wants that creative control, and if they don't get it, then they aren't going to participate.
Yeah,
Jacob. Oh, let's get Jacob in, and then Ed, you'll finish this up here.
I was just gonna say that it's like if they did feel disrespected, if they do feel like really salty about it, like they're still not gonna make a comment because it's what they're gonna. The Japanese company is gonna talk negatively about Japan because they weren't allowed into the show. Like, there's nothing like spooky spooky behind the scenes going on. I think it's just they got kicked or they chose not to be in it, and that's that. That's how it is. This is just the universe we live in now. The alternate universe where they were in the Olympics is having more fun than us. That's how it goes.
All right, Ed, what do you think?
I think it would have been cool if we did have it, but I've been hearing that people had a hard time trying to go back and watch it. Like the Olympics has kind of been a mess. Like you can't even go see the opening ceremonies for a lot of those old songs that they did. So for people who might want to like see this on YouTube or whatever streaming service is showing it, if they wanted to go back and see it, it may be gone forever. So if you've seen it at that one time, that may have been on your one-time experience for it. I think next time, Nintendo, if you want to do some music thing, I think it's like Corey said, with creative control and stuff, just do a concert. If the Olympics are coming to you and you see things are changing and if Miyamoto's evolved and y'all messing with Miyamoto, yeah, just stay away from it and just do a concert.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame Nintendo here, but I do think somebody dropped the ball big time because it seemed like Nintendo was clearly committed and wanting to be a part of it and did not like the direction things took, which is too bad because like Jacob said, the alternate universe where it happened had a lot more fun than we did. So, well, that is the end of our family news segment. So, Ed, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Well, everybody, we have some Family News Junior news. The Tetris 99 23rd Maximus Cup event will run from 12 a.m. PT August 6th to 11:59 p.m. PT on August 9th. Once you accumulated a total of 100 event points, a new theme will unlock featuring art, music, and Treachermino designs inspired by The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD game. So you guys can go on Nintendo of America's Twitter page and see more information for that. So let's get into doc mode, guys, because I'm very interested to hear from you guys. When we look at games, we're captivated by what is presented to us, whether it's a cutscene, an action sequence, or camera use with sweeping music. Something draws us in. For this episode's doc mode, we're talking about what grabs our attention about games. What separates Nintendo from indie and third party when it comes to trailers? Does Zelda, Mario, and Metroid carry a familiarity that makes it appealing? Does age play a part in the marketing aspect? Let's discuss Elite Block ages. So I'm going to start with you, Jacob. What grabs your attention about a game like that makes you want to buy it, that makes you want to own it, or something, or even makes you hype about it?
So I've never really thought about this before until you posted it in our chat talking about tonight's episode. And it's kind of interesting because I used to always get a little salty with Nintendo whenever they had their interviews and they talked about, well, gameplay is king. Like, we don't really care about the story. Like, we'll go back and figure out the story later, but we want the game to be fun. And weirdly enough, thinking about it then and thinking about like what my favorite games are, I think that's actually correct. I think that's what, if the gameplay doesn't seem interesting to me, if it seems like something that's been done before, if it seems like it's like Tetris, right? Tetris is classic gameplay. It really doesn't change a whole lot, but it can. But if somebody releases a worse version of Tetris, but it looks really cool and has a great story, like, I'm not going to play it because I could just go play Tetris and have a lot more fun. But gameplay has to be the big thing for me. If the game doesn't look fun, if I'm not going to have fun, then I don't care about what the characters are doing.
Okay. What about you, David?
Well, I had kind of a similar experience to Jacob. I teach literature. I love stories. Stories always been my thing. And if you would have asked me this, a year or two ago, I would have said, well, absolutely, story's king. It has to have a good story. And while I would still say I love a good story and my favorite games have that, gameplay really is it. I think Nintendo's right about that because and I learned this lesson actually through playing a lot of JRPGs and RPGs lately, which is like, have these incredible stories. Most of them do, right? But there's some that just have really bland, really generic gameplay. And I found myself just bored. And it's like, well, wait a minute. These have great great story. This is everything I'm supposed to love about games. Why am I not having fun? Well, because the battle system or the way of leveling up is not interesting. So, you know, I never realized prior just how central the gameplay experience really is. And to put a little finer point on it, I like games that make me feel powerful. And what I mean by that is, like, I want to feel like I have agency and the ability to, like, affect the world of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'll talk a little bit more about this in playing with power, but I've been playing a lot of Metroid games lately. And one thing that I've realized is how much, you know, as you get more abilities, you feel powerful as you advance through the levels. And that is a feeling that's really fun and makes the gameplay great. So that ability to, like, grow in your power is a big part of gameplay.
What about you, Corey?
I mean, story is great in games. I still think, like, gameplay is king, right? And you can have a game with a terrible story, but if the game is fun to play, right? Like, look, Gears of War for Xbox is not exactly award-winning storytelling, right? Granted, as the series went on, the story got better, and I actually think Gears 5 has a great story.
Yes.
But let's be honest, that first game, it's fine. But the gameplay is so good, right? Like, you get into cover and you have that tight third-person shooting. You have a lot of great weapons at your disposal. You have interesting grenade mechanics. Like that game is one of my favorite games of all time. It's not because of the story, right? I could almost say something similar about Breath of the Wild, right? Where, like, the story is there. Granted, story's a lot better than Gears of War. I'm not saying that the story is bad or anything. But, like, I mean, you can go through that whole game and miss like 10 or 12 memories because you're just kind of doing whatever you want, running around, kind of seeing these little instances in the world, right? Where you see the up on the lake, you see, like, the heart-shaped lake or whatever. You go, you see the Gorons mining. You see the fairies, like, you know, I mean, like, there's so many different things within the world that don't have to do with, like, a main story, but there's little moments there when you're kind of exploring that really, really hit you in certain ways. And plus, like, the game is really fun to play, right? It's got simple to understand mechanics, but, like, you can really do some interesting things once you kind of master the tools and the weapons and the bombs, and, you know, once you kind of upgrade them and the armor sets and stuff. Like, I think gameplay is king, but I think when you build upon that with a good story, then you have a great experience for the player. And, like, I think it's why we still talk about Breath of the Wild to this day, or any Zelda game, or Metroid, or, you know, some of these other classic Nintendo IP, because, like, yeah, they all started with great gameplay and great, interesting mechanics, right? But they started adding story. They started adding these little elements to the games, and it's like, whoa, this is why these franchises have lasted 30 or 40 years. Nintendo, acknowledge, please. You know, I mean, like, Donkey Kong turns 40 this year. Metroid and Zelda turned 35. Mario turned 35 last year. These are long-lasting franchises for a reason, you know? And I just think that Nintendo has kind of found its kind of sweet spot in that.
And I want to jump in before you say anything, Ed, because I'm sure you're going to have a whole lot to say. But it's almost like story and like music and sound design and graphics, all of those just influence or, like, help lift up the fact that the gameplay is so good. But story specifically, I'd thought about this with something David said, but, like, almost works in a circle, because, like, a great story absolutely blows good gameplay. Like, it is great. It makes it even better. But then, like, as you get to mediocre, it just kind of becomes forgettable. And then you get to bad. It's so bad that it's, like, funny. And if the gameplay can hold itself up on its own and the story is just terrible, you're laughing at it and having a good time with it because it's just like, why? And I think that's another part of the reason why gameplay is so important is because that's the one thing that has to be able to hold your attention. And I don't think that I really don't think that there's anything better than that. But I want to hear what you have to say, Ed, because I'm sure you have a lot.
So the things that grab my attention that makes me want to definitely get a game is definitely the visuals for it. I love art. Corey knows how much I love art. Me and him, we talk about it. And it's always just seeing something visual, seeing different art styles that Nintendo does, or even like with Sony. I think that's why I love The Last Guardian for Sony PlayStation, is because of how visually this game looks, how Trico is designed, and then just seeing how the world, how they interact. I'm like, this is so visually impressive that it draws me in. Now, gameplay is going to be there, and it really depends on where the gameplay is coming from. Because if it's not coming from Nintendo, and it maybe come from like Double Dutch Games or something, it may be terrible gameplay and stuff. We get on about the visual novel games that is rampant on Switch and stuff, where we may look at the visual, but the gameplay is just so basic and boring and everything. Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's kind of what I was trying to allude with, the fact that, like, can the gameplay be innovated on? Can it get any better than it is? Tetris is as good as it gets for that style of gameplay, right?
Tetris
the falling
is perfect.
bricks. Yeah, exactly. And I think visual novels, even though for people who don't enjoy visual novels because of the gameplay, they just don't enjoy that type of gameplay. But in reality, that visual novels, like, that's the best way that you can do that type of game.
I don't know. Have you played a visual novel in 3D yet?
No,
that's dangerous.
That could be something other than gameplay, I think, or other than a video game.
Gosh.
I think. But like that's as good as it's gonna get for some of those, right? You're not really gonna innovate on something like that a whole lot, and I think that's why they're so samey, is because it's just like you just can't get better, and eventually maybe someone will, but for now we have to wait for that right creative mind to come through and change it up.
And I think that's why when it comes to trailers, for me, is that I love to see the visual representation that's going to be actually in the game and not be hindered by so many cutscenes. We all talked about Cyberpunk. We all talked about Alien Colonial Marines. We've talked about even Nintendo doing the Zelda demo, how it was very visually impressive for GameCube. And that wasn't the thing that we got when Twilight Princess came out or Wind Waker came out, But those games...
Twilight Princess, best Zelda game.
But those games, those games, they were hidden by visuals until the actual game came out. So, yes, the trailers look impressive. But for me personally, I always say that I want to see what I'm actually going to get when I'm playing the game. Because the gameplay could be king for a lot of people. But if your visuals don't match up to it, like, how do you spend... This is kind of the problem that I have with some games, even with DICE for EA, is that your game looks visual, but your gameplay is a mess.
Can I
in a sense? Go ahead.
To that
Corey.
point, Ed, can I ask the panel something? Are there ever situations where the story actually prevents you from playing the game, like whether it's telling something that's way too serious or trying way too hard to tell a serious story and it just doesn't do anything for you? Because for me, it's like, I think this is why I kind of am not a PlayStation fan, is because, like, I feel like they try way too hard to tell stories. Like, for me, like, I don't like
The Last of Us. Is that where you're going?
I don't like The Last of Us at all. Like, I can't. And it's not because it's, like, super violent or anything, but, like, those first, like, 20 minutes try super hard to just, like, make you feel something. And it's like, yeah, it totally made me feel something for reasons that have nothing to do with video games, right? But, like, I just, like, I feel like stuff like that tries too hard, or like even the newest God of War, which, don't get me wrong, the game was really fun to play and stuff, but like they try too hard for me. They try too hard in the storytelling department, and it's just like I would rather play something like Halo or Zelda or Mario or something, right? Where it's like there's too many stressful things, and I'm just talking about me here, and I don't mean to make this sound like some sort of weird pity party thing, but like there's too many things in my life that are stressful and complicated and hard, and like I don't want to sit down with this small amount of free time that I have and feel that way while I'm playing a video game, right? Like that's just not what I want to experience in my video games.
I think that's been the thing with me with Uncharted 2. And even like the Grand Theft Auto games, it's just like you want to tell the story, but sometimes I end up feeling like the story is too long, the story is unclear, or it becomes very illogical because of the gameplay. LeRon knows this with me when I'm on that train section of Uncharted 2. If I'm hitting an enemy with 55 bullets and the cutscene comes out and and that one character shoots the dude with just one bullet, he dies. That takes me out of the story.
Well, I mean, that's Uncharted though. Everybody knows that everybody is just a big bullet sponge in that game, right? Like it's stupid. But like I would take an Uncharted every 2 to 4 years over anything else that Sony does, except for maybe Horizon. Horizon's amazing, but.
Well, and I think that some of the stories in Killzone and definitely Resistance are really good. And I'm not going to discount Microsoft because I felt like, Halo 5 had its problems, but I love that story and I love that game outside of the gameplay because, of course, visually it was impressive, but I love what it was doing with this cutscenes on how it was telling the story and progressing.
I know I don't want to get into it on this show, but maybe afterwards you can tell me what happened in Halo 5 story because I played through it 3 times and I have no idea what happens. So
same.
so it's. I think that's just something with me. Jacob, did you want to answer Corey's question before we move on?
It's never bothered me because again, I get to the point where I decide either this story is dumb and I don't care about it and I'm just going to skip through it to get to the parts where I'm having fun, or in the instance where the story is trying to take over, like if I play the game for a minute of gameplay and then I have 30 minutes of cutscenes to watch and that's how the gameplay flows, then that's just bad gameplay. Like that doesn't even have, the minute does not make it worth that. But if it, like Deus Ex was Machina, I think was the one that I played on the 360 maybe. And I really, really enjoyed the gameplay in that. I have no idea what the story was about. I spammed the A button through everything, and whenever it had you made a choice, I was just like, this one sounds good. Like no clue, but I enjoyed the gameplay of it, and that's what mattered to me. But no, a story has never ruined a game for me or made me not want to play the game anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you guys, what separates Nintendo from indies and third parties when it comes to trailers that grabs your attention about a game? Definitely for me, like just taking Smash, it's just like their trailer so funny yet so interesting and cool. Like you could go watch the Castlevania one with Luigi going in and how he got hit with, how Death ended up killing him. And it's just kind of funny to see that. But then you see Sephiroth, with Mario and the thing, and then you just see him fighting like Cloud, and you like into it for some apparent reason. Me and you laughed and was excited, but we was confused when we saw Ganon being carried off and then thrown off the cliff for E3 for Kazuya from Tekken. It was just like, wait, is this Zelda? Like it grabbed our attention and stuff. So David, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think the difference is, I don't know if professionalism is the right word, but like professional grade, maybe, with like trailers and whatnot. Like Nintendo's they make very produced trailers and very produced games. And I think that's a little bit more accessible sometimes, or will catch my attention right away. When I see indie trailers, I sort of have to remind myself to keep an open mind. Like, just because something looks different or doesn't look as initially appealing doesn't mean I'm not going to just fall in love with the game, right? Like, it's sort of like trying new foods. You know, somebody puts one in front of you that kind of looks a little different than what you're used to. It's like, have an open mind, try it. It might actually be good and turn out to be your favorite dish. That's kind of how I think about indie games versus like mainline Nintendo games. When I look at trailers, so, you know, there's games that I kind of write off like that doesn't look visually appealing to me because, you know, they were on a fixed budget or had limited resources as indie developers, but then later found out, hey, that's a good game. I got to give that a fair shot. So I guess that's how I'd answer that question.
What about you, Corey?
Just to go off what David said, right? Like, Nintendo does very well produced trailers, but like the thing I think people give a lot of flack to other companies is like they have CG trailers and they don't show gameplay. They just, it's more of like a tonal piece. It's more of like a thing that, hey, this is the tone we're going for. This is what we hope the game will end up being. It's probably going to change a little bit here and there, but this is what we're going for. And we as Nintendo fans, when we watch these trailers, like, yeah, okay, the Smash trailers, right, they're always CG, but then they always show afterwards the character fighting other characters. They usually have like Kirby swallowing them and turning the power and that, and then you get like the demo of that character and the Sakurai presents things like what 1 or 2 weeks later, and I really appreciate that. And then you look at the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer that we got, right? It's like they do such a good job in their story trailers of like, okay, here's the game, but they're also teasing things, right? That Skyward Sword shot of Link falling out of the sky was so intentional. Zelda falling was so intentional. They show so many things that are intentional to get you to think about, where's it going? What is this? I need to see more. Where's the story going? Is it really tying back into Skyward Sword? You can't tell me that they designed that trailer and then released Skyward Sword and that was intentional, right? Like, Skyward Sword was intentionally released right now, right? Above the other two, I guess, HD games at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're tying it back into Skyward Sword. You can't tell me that those islands are not Skyloft. You can't not sit here and say this is some version of Skyloft in a different timeline or something, or abandoned, right? Like, it could just be Skyloft is abandoned, and that's one of the temples you go to. I don't know, but Nintendo does so many. Like, look at the Metroid Dread trailer, right? It, like, yeah, they did say like this footage is not gameplay or whatever, but then they had like a 40-minute treehouse segment of gameplay, and you're like, well, yeah, that looks awesome. I think Metroid Dread's color palette, by the way, is amazing. I love the monochromatic with just bits of color within the game. Like, it just looks so good, and it's gonna look so good on the OLED.
I'm so excited. I need to order my copy.
Nintendo is just the masters of producing great quality, almost everything, right? And trailers are no exception.
What about you, Jacob?
For me, it's strictly about the nostalgia in Nintendo trailers. Give you, for instance, and I know this isn't, it is Nintendo. It's not developed necessarily by Nintendo, but the Advanced Wars Reboot Camp 1 and 2 trailer, that trailer, if you don't know anything about Advanced Wars, that trailer is butts. That trailer is dumb. It doesn't get you hyped for the game at all. Like, they open it up with it saying the Orange Star Nation is under attack. And that, I lost my mind when I saw those words, because I know Advanced Wars and because I'm excited about Advanced Wars and I've played it before. But if you don't know what that is, you're just like, okay, is this like an Avatar game? Like, I don't understand. Like,
can I add to that?
Go ahead.
That was the same thing with Astral Chain. We did not know what the world that was. And it was just like, wait, what is it? Like, when we found out what it was, it didn't be like, who in the heck is this? Platinum Games? Wait, what? We had no clue of what that was.
Yes, exactly. And like, so Astral Chain, Splatoon, ARMS, when I saw those, I was just like, oh, cool, this is neat. Like, I wasn't really excited about it. I was just like, this is cool. This seems like it might be right, like up my alley. And knowing that it's a Nintendo published or developed game, like that helps a lot for me because I have nostalgia for Nintendo as a company. But for game series that I don't know about from them or that I don't care about, I don't see anything different. It's strictly the nostalgia based stuff. Cause like, again, WarioWare is another one that like, I lost my mind when they announced the new WarioWare for Switch. But like, if you don't know what WarioWare is, I don't think that trailer's going to interest you at all. Like maybe if you just like if you like party games, then sure. But if you're just like a gamer that has never played a party game before, then WarioWare is probably not going to be interesting to you.
I mean, at that point, right? Like you look at the if speaking of party games, you look at the Mario Party trailer, right? It's like there's so much nostalgia and so many just like I played the crap out of Mario Party 1, 2, and 3 when I was younger, and they showed so many mini games and so many boards, and it's just that right there was like, oh man, they're hitting all the right notes for me as somebody who actually does enjoy Mario Party and has no one to play with.
Well, you've got all of us, man.
I know, but
and like, sorry, but the Smash Brothers trailers, right? They have great production value, but like, I don't care about Tekken. I love Ganondorf, but I saw Ganondorf and then realized, oh, this is a Smash trailer, and then saw who it was for. It was just like, okay, cool. And like at that point, I was just looking for like the little bits of nostalgia for me that like, oh look, there's Kirby. That's neato. Like he flew away. But I didn't care about the trailer. I didn't care about the character. It didn't make me want to go out and buy the character. That's what it is for me. It's all about the nostalgia of Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. And I probably could say something different for you, David. So I won't speak on it. But Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. When I seen the fresh trailer for it, I think, Corey, I lost my mind because seeing just the first Hyrule Warriors trailer, you'd be like, wait, what the world is this? The Zelda game in the Warrior series. Then seeing them playing and enjoying it for what it is. Then seeing Age of Calamity to be like 100 years before this game starts. What is this visual representation? Why does this look so good? And why do I need it so bad? Like, I don't know if you lost your mind when you see Age of Calamity, David. Thoughts on that one?
I mean, I was watching it in the kitchen, and I can't remember what my family was doing, but I freaked them out when I jumped out of my chair and shouted. So, I literally, no hyperbole, jumped out of my chair, started shouting because I was so excited about that game. So, yeah.
Yeah. Before you go, Jacob, and we get to the third question, when you said Advance Wars, I was like, what? I screamed because I was just like, I can't believe Nintendo's rebooting it. And then I found out WayForward is doing it. And then I literally just wanted to burst in tears because WayForward is like one of my favorite companies of all time.
It kind of.
So one thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it kind of surprised me that WayForward was doing that art style with it, though.
Yeah.
Man, when I think WayForward, I'm just like, man, give me some like hand drawn or pixel art. You know what I mean? Like, just give me that.
I'm shocked that Nintendo WayForward has been actually, besides that one little game that they did that they hyped up and it was a big disappointment. I'm shocked that WayForward and Nintendo are doing business in games. Like, who would have known Nintendo would go to WayForward for them to do Advance Wars? Like, no one would have thought of that. Okay, Jacob, I'm sorry. And then we'll get to the next question.
No, it's good. We can move on to the next question.
Okay, so moving on, does Zelda, Mario, and Metroid carry a familiarity that makes it appealing? Meaning that, like, when you do see something new from the series and you recognize it because of who they are, you know that you may be leaning more to getting that game. Starting with you, David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's something, it's just the familiarity. I mean, I guess, sure. But I think Nintendo, and we've talked about this a lot of times, Nintendo does a good job of cultivating their fan base as like a business model, right? Like, I will be buying every Zelda game that comes out from now till forever, and probably the same for Mario. And I'm, losing my soul to the Samus series right now. So it's like, Nintendo knows what they're doing. They support their brand in a way that I wish other companies did. I have an Xbox. I love Xbox. It's been a while since I've owned a PlayStation, but their IPs aren't as supported as Nintendo is, and I guess you could call that familiarity, but I just call it like creating fans of your franchise that are excited for the next thing.
What about you, Corey?
I think that Mario and Zelda for sure have a lot of weight to carry Nintendo, right? But I know there's Metroid fans, but I don't think Samus carries the same weight as Zelda and Mario, right? Like I would like it to, because I think Samus is a great character, an important character for gaming, being one of the first really truly great female heroes in gaming, and really being important in that respect. I think Metroid Dread might be that turning point, that and Metroid Prime 4.
Yes.
Not only because like Metroid is a great game and people are going to realize it, but like it's on the Switch and everything sells on Switch, right? So like let's get a boost, right? Let's make sure we do give Metroid its due, because I don't want it to be a Fire Emblem situation where like if this one doesn't sell great, we might just put it to rest for a while, right? And that was the point of Fire Emblem Awakening, right? Where, if this doesn't sell well, we might have to go back to the drawing board and just put Fire Emblem away for a while. And I'm glad they didn't, because I think Fire Emblem is a fantastic franchise, and I think Metroid can be an A-tier franchise for Nintendo, especially like if you keep the 2D stuff up, right? If you kind of want to, I know it's not popular in Japan, right? But like you aim Metroid Prime towards a Western audience and make it more of a, I don't really want it this way, but make it more of a first-person shooter with puzzle elements instead of a puzzle game with action in it, right? Like I think that's what you could do with that, and maybe you elevate it to a Mario and Zelda-esque level.
And I know we covered it for Fem News a weeks back about how the sales on Wii U for Zero and Fusion has jumped. Like that's the first time that something for the Metroid series has ever happened, and it feels like there's something about Metroid that just got a new interest from a lot of players. Jacob, what did you think?
Well, yeah, this goes back to what I was talking about previously, is that it's the nostalgia factor for those characters. And Corey's absolutely right that like Metroid is primed to be the next big, like really cement itself as the next big tentpole for Nintendo. But for me personally, Mario, Zelda, Samus, those characters have a nostalgia factor for me. Hyrule Warriors, the original one, got announced, and I was so excited and hyped for it, because I didn't care that it was a Warriors game. It was another game in the Zelda series that I wanted to play. I want to play all of them. So it's just that. It's that nostalgia factor. It's the fact that that this game will most likely be good and great, even because it's who it's made by and the content that's in it. And I don't have a problem with that.
All right. Well, the last question, does age play a part in the marketing aspects of grabbing gamers' attention? Corey, what are your thoughts?
I think absolutely. You look at Nintendo's ads, they're like, there's all kinds of different people playing these games, right? They aim a lot towards families. Like then you see Ring Fit, you see these people working out with Ring Fit Adventure. You see families playing Mario Kart together. I think age plays a role. I think they want to make sure that they say, hey, the Switch is for everybody. Doesn't matter what you're into. You can play this here, this here, this here, this here. And I think they've been marketing it that way. So.
David, I don't know if you was a kid at the time when the Link's Awakening commercial came on, and there was their rap that they was doing, not the Japanese one, the American one for the Game Boy. I don't know if you ever seen it as a kid, but like if you saw it now, what would you think?
Oh, I love cheesy stuff like that. So it was all up in my wheelhouse. But I do think to connect to what Corey said, as much as Nintendo wants to be for everyone, I actually don't know that that's who they advertise to. I think Nintendo sort of accepts that teens and 20-somethings don't really, that's not their main target audience. And I think they target, younger teens and kids, and then adults with the nostalgia hook. So they kind of like prime people to return as customers, but they accept that there's going to be this period of time where people go and do quote unquote serious gaming before they return to their roots. And I think that Nintendo just sort of accepts that as the way of things.
Jacob, you who stream and everything, like you get a chance to definitely for you getting a new game or you got a game that maybe people in your community hasn't played. Do you think that when you stream, you don't think of the age that you're marketing these games for or streaming these games for, I should say?
No, I actually the exact opposite for me. I absolutely think of the stream like who the games are marketed for, because like I know that my nephews watch, and I don't want to put anything that I think my brother or sister might not want their kids watching available for them. And so like I will turn on and turn off the mature streaming filter if I think that there's anything in a game that might not be suitable for them. So I know I take that very seriously, and I think that does play a big role in how I stream and what Nintendo does. And I think that David hit the nail on the head with that, and that Nintendo's kind of accepted that like, once you become a teenager to your young adult years, you're not going to play Nintendo games. You're going to be PC, Xbox, PlayStation, but you'll be back. And they're betting on that, because in those commercials you see kids like with their friends, like young kids, middle schoolers and younger. You see parents with their kids, and then you see like late 20s, early 30s something like, hey, I just got off my job, let's go hit up a bar and play Switch, like play Mario Party. Like that's who they market to. And I think that they've been slowly transitioning from the Wii of being we are trying to be for everyone and we have every demographic, and then they've been with the Wii U, and now with the Switch they've been transitioning to more of the we're for the older crowd and the younger crowd, and we'll bring in the middle crowd like when they start and then when they end, and that's just how they roll, which I think is neat.
Yeah, I think one thing that I have noticed is definitely in the Nintendo Direct, just listening to the narrator's voice. We're talking about these games. Like, you'll hear him pumped up for something wacky for like Mario Party, but then they'll get to a serious tone when it's Shin Megami Tensei 5. And it'd be like this dark, desolate. And it's always like what they're going for, what they're marketing. And yes, the tone of the narrator is trying to be like, this is a more mature teen rated kind of game, but with this lighthearted Mario game, we gotta kind of be jaunty and stuff. So kind of like marketing, even with the use of voice, is just always important in everything. Bonus question before we get into Play with Power. What is one game that has grabbed your attention for 2021? I'm going to start with, you know what? I'll actually start. So definitely, and this don't have to be Nintendo, everybody. This can be any video game that you want. Definitely, it has been Forza Horizon 5. Watching that trailer and just seeing how the game looks is gorgeous. Of course, all the Nintendo stuff is fine, but man, when I seen that trailer, I dropped my jaw. Jesse knows, because me and him was watching it, and I was just like, "Whoa, what is this game? I need it." And now that I got a Series X and the 4K, I'm going to be so ready for it. Jacob, what is that one game that has grabbed your attention that you are excited for this
Mario Party Superstars. I'm really excited to jump back into a Mario Party game and have a great time with my friends and with my community. That's despite like Metroid coming out and some other games that I'm sure are going to be announced as well. That's the game that I'm just really amped up for and looking forward to, because I want to play a good Mario Party game again.
Yes. Corey, what is that one game that has grabbed your attention for 2021?
I think the re-reveal of Halo Infinite was a really great trailer. I think Metroid Dread also, I think I'm really excited to play those 2 games this fall.
Okay, and what about you, David?
Yeah. For me, Aliens Fireteam Elite is the reason I bought an Xbox Series X. I'm so beyond excited for that. But in terms of Nintendo, Metroid Dread's trailer was so great that it got me playing Metroid. So, yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, that's been our Doc Mode. We're gonna go and get it to play with power. For me, it's Skyward Sword, Monkey Barrel, the Great Ace Attorney, and literally just started Ease 9. Jacob, what have you been playing with power?
I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Unite. I'm incredibly addicted to that game, and it's a problem. I also am finishing up Skyward Sword on my stream, and I'm playing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles with a friend of mine, and also Pokemon Omega Ruby. I've kind of started playing through that game again with my girlfriend, so we're having fun with that.
David, what have you been playing with power?
So I'm about 50 hours into Skyward Sword. I've done all my gratitude crystals. I've done all the side quests. I got the Hylian Shield, which is my favorite boss rush moment in games. Where this particular boss rush is my favorite, in spite of having to fight the imprisoned like 3 additional times. So I've been enjoying Skyward Sword HD more than I expected, and it is vaulted into my top 5 for Zelda. I've also been playing Metroid Samus Returns for my 3DS, and I gotta say that game particular, other than A Link Between Worlds, probably is the best use of the 3D feature on the 3DS that I've seen. Metroid is all about, atmosphere, and the use of 3D in that is just fantastic. So I've been playing that, and really just those 2 games, I think, right now.
All right, Corey, what have you been playing with power?
I've been trying to play Skyward Sword, but this weekend was the Halo Infinite test flight for the multiplayer, and I was lucky enough to get an invite to that, and I played a lot of that this weekend, and by a lot, I mean I played like 3 or 4 hours. It was really good. I think it feels like when Halo 4 came out, I think a lot of people didn't really care for it because it didn't feel like an evolution of Halo in the way that people wanted it to feel like. And then Halo 5, although it's very good and the gameplay is very good, people complained that it was too fast. It didn't really feel like Halo, right? And I feel like whoever designed the movement and the gunplay and stuff played all of the probably Halo 2, 3, and Reach the most. And they took what felt good about each one of those games and delivered the experience that I think people really want. The guns sound and play like they should. The Spartans move like they should. It feels like an evolution of Halo 3 that people wanted Halo 4 to be and never got. And it's wonderful. It was a great experience. And I went from being like excited for Halo, right, to it being probably my most anticipated game of the rest of the year, just based on the 4 or 5 hours I played of the test flight. It just the gunplay felt really good. And as somebody who plays a lot of Destiny, and I don't think anybody does gunplay better than Bungie, this feels really close to that. And it's exciting because Halo 5 was fun, but did not feel like Halo, and this feels like a return to form for Halo. So it's been that. And then Tetris. I'm hooked on Tetris again. I can't help it, guys.
All right, everybody, that has been Nintendo Pow Block. We're going to get quickly into some plugs. You guys can find me on Twitter at @RetroCode and check out more of Nintendo Pow Block at Bossrush Games and on our YouTube page. Corey, go ahead and plug.
You can find me at I am Corey in HD. Yeah, that's it.
David?
You can find me at David Lasby on Twitter. Also, we are still looking to hire one more writer this month. So if you would like to inquire about that, you can go to our website, bossrush.net, and go to the contact page. You can also email directly at opportunities@brg@gmail.com. That's opportunitiesatbrg@gmail.com.
And Jacob, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Galutrad, Galutrad.
All right, everybody, that has been the show. Great discussion, everybody. We want you to have a great week, great weekend. Did you have anything to say, Corey?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And with that, everybody, we'll see you next time on Nintendo Pow Block. Bye, everybody. Woohoo!
Goodbye.
The Nintendo Pow Block podcast is a production of the Boss Rush network of podcasts. Visit bossrush.net to listen to our podcast and read our articles, game reviews, and more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network to stay up to date with our content. Thank you for listening.